actually have to teach them to go out and collect our sheep and bring them back. They will just do it instinctively. So you may have a working breed dog at home like one of these guys. They may have that natural herding instinct, but without any sheep or stock to herd, they may herd things like chickens, toys, kids, and even other dogs at the dog park as well. So Hunter down the front here, he's quite a typical border collie. They're quite recognisable. So he has a long black and white coat and quite short legs. So they've been used for hundreds of years over in Scotland and England, and they have become one of the most widely used sheepdogs in the world as well. They are great dogs. They're very obedient, very eager to please, and very quick to respond to their owner's command as well. But when they were brought over here to Australia, it quickly became apparent that they just weren't very well suited to our conditions over here. So we do get very extreme heat, over 40 degrees, as well as the conditions on the ground are a lot rougher as well. So with that long coat of theirs, they didn't cope very well. So we needed a dog that could work here in Australia, and that's why we created the Australian Kelpie. So they're bred from working collies that were brought to Australia in the early 1800s, as well as a very small percentage DNA of dingo. So you can see Rex over there has a much shorter coat. He's also got longer legs and thicker pads on the bottom of his feet, so he can run along the hot ground here in Australia. So the Kelpies are quite a different dog to the Border Collie in the way that they work. So Kelpies are bred to work with little to no instruction from their owners. So you'll see the difference when I'm working with these two dogs. When I'm working with Hunter, he's always looking to me, always waiting for his next command, and I have to give him instructions all the time. Whereas Rex, I pretty much just give him one instruction and he knows exactly what he's doing. So they're both very good dogs. They work differently, but they still are great at getting the job done. So we have quite a rich history of wool production here in Australia. We've been producing wool for over 200 years. Currently in Australia, we're running around 80 million sheep in our wool industry. So that means once a year, every single one of those sheep need to come down to our shearing sheds to be given their annual haircut. And that's when our dogs become a really valuable asset to us. So they say a good working dog can do the work of around 3 to 5 people, and they can get quite expensive. The most expensive Australian Kelpie sold this year for $22,000. So this may sound like a lot of money, but when you think about investing in a good working dog or paying 3 to 5 people their wages for the working life of that dog, about 8 or 9 years, it is a very good investment and they quickly pay for themselves. So even though our dogs have a natural herding instinct, we needed to be able to control our dogs. So we do put a lot of training into them. We start training when they're about 3 months of age, and we'll start with the same things that you would teach a puppy at home. So basic obedience, to sit, to stay, and very importantly to come when they're called as well. And then once they start to get a bit older, we'll start working them around just a few sheep in a really controlled environment. We'll see that natural herding instinct coming through and we can start teaching them some commands. And then by the time they're about 18 months old to 2 years old, we have a dog that's fully trained and mature enough to be working out in the paddocks with our stock. So what we're going to show you today is a little bit of what happens out on those large wool producing properties, but on a much smaller scale. So I only have 10 sheep in my show today, but if we were out on a large sheep station, we may have hundreds of sheep in this paddock, and the paddock could also be so large that we wouldn't actually be able to see where our sheep are when we enter it. So usually the farmer will set out on some kind of vehicle, like a ute, a motorbike, or even on a horse, with their dog alongside them. They'll work their way around the property until they locate their sheep, and then they'll send their dog out to collect the sheep and bring it back to them. So Hunter's going to do that for me now. So he's going to go nice and wide around this paddock, and he's going to get behind our sheep, which are just up the top there behind that tree, and he's going to bring them down here to me. So again, this is just his natural herding instinct. So even if I had 100 sheep in this paddock, he'd still be doing the same thing. So I'll tell you a bit about our sheep while Hunter's bringing them down. We do have 10 merino sheep in our show today. So merinos have some of the softest and finest wool in the world. So we use it in our clothing. It makes beautiful coats and jumpers. The rest of the sheep here in Australia are usually some sort of merino crossbreed. So their wool is a little bit coarser. So we use it in things like rugs and carpets, as well as stuffings in doonas as well. So we do export our wool to about 52 different countries, with about 80% of it going to China. So you'll see Hunter's got those sheep moving now, and he's just going to keep them nice and calm. When sheep panic, they do tend to split off in all different directions. So he just wants to keep them as a nice little group. So he's just going to go nice and calmly bring them down here to me.
Sheep. Dog.
Alrighty, so now that Hunter's brought my sheep down to me, he's going to sit in what we call a balanced position. So he's going to sit somewhere around these sheep, and he knows they're going to stay very close to me, and they're not going to split off, and they're going to stay in a nice little group. So this is really great when we're out in big, nice open paddocks and we're moving our sheep around. But when we need to move a couple of hundred sheep through a small raceway or gateway, we don't really want to be in front of the sheep with the dog working behind them. Otherwise, we are going to get knocked over and injured quite quickly. So what we can do is teach our dog directional commands. So with a combination of vocal commands or whistles, as well as body language, even where we stand can tell our dog what we want them to do. So we can move our sheep without being in the way. So if I say here, Hunter will move clockwise around these sheep, and then back. He'll move anti-clockwise around the sheep. And that way we can safely move our sheep without being in any danger. So Hunter and I are now going to take the sheep back out into the paddock behind me, and we have a few obstacles out there. So we're going to move them through the obstacles. What I want everyone to do is that if Hunter gets every sheep through an obstacle, just give him a big clap and tell him he's doing a good job. And then after that, it's going to be Rex's turn, and he's going to bring our sheep down into our yards here so you can have a bit of a closer look after the show.
कुछ करना भी ना वो कुत्ता उन लोग को देखते हो पूरा सिक्योरिटी है No, failed. Cut your losses.
Alrighty, so you can see Hunter just was a bit too keen there, and our sheep got a bit panicked, so they split off. So we'll try the next obstacle. Alright, we give Hunter a big clap. He's done a great job for us. Alrighty, so now it's Rex's turn. So you'll see, like I was saying before, how differently these dogs work. So when Hunter's out there in the paddock, he works at a bit of a distance from the sheep just to keep them nice and calm. But when we get down here into these really tight environments, we need a dog that can work a bit closer with the sheep with a bit more force and a very stronger presence around the sheep to really push them through those raceways. So Rex is going to do that for us. So you can probably already see Rex moves a little bit differently towards those sheep. He does move quite slowly out there in the paddock, but he gets down nice and low and he really stares at the sheep. And you'll see just with a look how he can move those sheep. And now they're going to come down nice and fast, and he's going to push them through that raceway for me. Give Rex a big clap. He's done a great job. Alrighty, so you can see just how willing those sheep were to move for Rexy there. So they are a little bit different, the Border Collies and the Kelpies, but it is important that we have a dog that can move our sheep into our yards. So when it comes shearing time, we need to get them into our shearing, into the sheds, as well as just to count our sheep and check them over and administer any treatment they might need as well. So I'm going to invite you all out shortly, and you can come and meet our dogs and you have a feel of our sheep as well. So they do look a little bit dirty on the outside, and that's because they have a natural oil which is produced by their skin. It's called lanolin, and that helps to protect their wool. So if you open up the fleece, you will see the nice white wool that is underneath and feel how soft it is. These guys also only have about 3 or 4 months worth of wool on them at the moment. But on the display behind you, we have a full pelt of a merino. So if you'd like to see how much wool does come off them, you can have a look up the back there. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask as well. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of your day.